Welcome to the BBC.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Between Both Cheeks. We have a special guest today from our little home country of Canada. Right next door to us in Calgary, Alberta, we have Carly from Rviita. Not Rviita, Rviita Energy Drinks. And we're here to talk about all of the things that she's doing, the trade shows that she's doing, and why she decided to get into this business. So welcome.
Well, such an amazing introduction. Thank you so much. I really look up to you guys. I admire what you've built, and I'm so excited to be on the show with you today.
Thank you so much. So tell us a little bit about your business. Give the people what they need because listen, everyone at the trade show needs to have your drinks. Everyone at our trade shows.
Well, everyone could use a little extra energy, I think, especially these days. But yeah, so like you said, I'm Carly, one of the founders of Rviita Energy Tea, and I started the company about 5 years ago with my brother Mitch. And simply put, it's a healthy energy drink. So it's a blend of caffeine from tea, organic honey, fruit juice, and vitamins. And it comes in a very unique, eco-friendly, flexible beverage pouch. It's the only one of its kind on the market. And we started the company because we actually it was about coming up on 10 years ago now. He was in his early 20s when it happened, but we had a good friend that actually had a heart attack from drinking too many traditional energy drinks. And fortunately, he was okay. He made a full recovery, but it was really scary. And you hear stories like this all the time with young kids, especially athletes. They're playing these really long hockey games and they're playing sports and things like that. And they're crushing all these energy drinks and they end up with cardiac problems. And I used to be a nurse. I actually worked in cardiac surgery myself, and I saw it myself firsthand. And being a nurse working a lot of night shifts specifically, I was always reaching for energy drinks and typically reached for those sugary ones in the can to keep me going on my night shifts, and always wondered why there wasn't a healthier alternative to these. I think we can all agree that sometimes you just need to reach for those, energy drinks to keep you going. But a lot of them, they're full of sugar, they're full of chemicals, they don't make you feel great. And so my brother and I, we joined forces and we decided that something needed to change, and we decided to create our own something healthier and something that resonated with a more health conscious, active professional demographic. So hence Rviita was born.
I love that. It's funny that you talk about like the heart attack and health risks because I remember in my 20s, I was at a bar that didn't have what I usually drink. So I needed to stay up. I was super tired and I was doing Red Bull vodkas, like a lot of them. And I went to bed that night and I remember like never having this feeling before, but like it felt like I was gonna, like my heart was coming out of my chest and I was gonna have like a full on, like it was the weirdest feeling. And then fast forward like 2 years later, I'm in Europe and I go to the bar and I was like, jet lagged or anything. I was like, I'll just do like a vodka Red Bull. And they refused to serve it and they said it was illegal.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's crazy how you can still like get these drinks in so many bars and they're everywhere and there's not a lot of regulations on them too. And so the younger kids are drinking them now, but I mean, they taste good. And when you're young and you're trying to stay awake, it's something to reach for. And I certainly did the same thing, but was definitely there myself. I've experienced the uneasy feeling and the heart palpitations from drinking a lot of the energy drinks out there.
I too was in my 20s before.
So did you or your brother have any experience in this industry at all? Like how did you get into manufacturing this and getting into, these stores that you're in, and tell us about, where people could find you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, great question. So first of all, you can find us all across Canada. We're hoping to break into the US next year is a big plan for us. We just launched on Amazon Prime in the US, which is going really well so far, but we're in about 1,500 stores across Canada, including Safeway, Whole Foods, and Superstore, to name a few. But to put it in context, so we had extremely humble beginnings, and my brother Mitch and I had zero experience in business and beverage in manufacturing in any of it. So I hope that we can be a testament to what you can accomplish when you apply yourself and work hard and find connections with the right people, because we really had no idea what we were doing when we first started and are still figuring out as we go. But when we started the company about, coming up on 5-6 years ago, we actually started the company completely out of our living room. And it all started with a Google search. I think the Google search was how to start a beverage company. And it led us to a book that we found on Amazon that was an actual book about like how to build a beverage company. We read that book and kind of slowly built it up from there. And when we first started, we actually launched with a contract manufacturer out of Vancouver. So not too far from you guys. And so they would do a very small production run for us. They would do like 1 or 2 production runs a month, and they would ship a pallet of product to my brother's living room. So I was still living at home with my parents. So I would go over to his house during the day, and we cleared out all the furniture from the living room, and we would just stack piles of boxes in the living room. And that was our formal headquarters. So it started with very, very humble beginnings. We would get a shipment every month. It would come to the driveway. We would hand bomb all the cases inside. And then we just started knocking on doors of any small retailers that would take us on. So it started out with a couple of health food stores here in Calgary. We started doing samplings and markets at gyms and farmers markets and things like that on the weekend. And that's how we got started. So we really started with no help, no experience. We had no money. And slowly but surely, just by taking one customer and turning them into 2 and opening more retail doors, getting out in the community, meeting people, going above and beyond for every single customer, we started to get more traction and more word of mouth. And back in 2020, we launched into our very first retail chain, which is a local grocery store here in Calgary called Calgary Co-op, and it's about 30 stores. And that was our big break. We really thought that we had made it. And, it was a huge, chance that they took on us back then because we, really had nothing. We were just operating out of our house, but we got our product into these grocery stores, and we realized then that we, really had proof of concept that people were taking to the product. We were visiting the stores, and the managers, they were impressed with how it was selling. We were doing demos and tastings, and the customers loved it. So we managed to just build it up slowly from there. Fast forward then a couple of years, we ended up, selling enough product that we could justify moving out of the living room into a warehouse space. And so we got back on handy Google. We didn't even have a realtor, and we found a warehouse space only 10 minutes from my brother's house. And we took a leap and signed the lease, and we moved in. And from there, it just slowly snowballed. We got into Safeway and Sobeys, and slowly we got into Whole Foods and some more retailers from there. And then back in 2021, because we were increasing demand and we started to get more traction, that was when we made the decision to build our own manufacturing facility for a couple of different reasons. One, having control and having your own manufacturing is such an amazing resource and asset to have, but also because our packaging is very unique. We're in this very, we're in a custom patented flexible pouch. We realized that there's really nobody that can manufacture this for us. And so we ran into, some roadblocks and stumbling blocks and ended up having to build our own manufacturing facility, which we then did here in Calgary as well. But, long story short, it really started out by very humble beginnings, taking one customer and turning them into 2 and just putting one foot in front of the other. And it's amazing now to look back and see just how far it's come.
Gosh, what a story. And I will say, because I've had a few flavors of your teas, is one thing that you guys market about your product is that you don't get the crash. And it is true. I would mid-afternoon, you usually get a caffeine crash and you don't feel very good. And when I had your beverages, that didn't happen. And then I didn't struggle to fall asleep later that night. So whatever you're putting in those things, your money is where your mouth is. You're doing exactly what you say, and I love it.
Well, thank you so much, Becca. I appreciate that. And yes, we marketed as, crash-free energy tea. And I guess to get a little bit sciencey on you guys, the reason why, why that is and why we chose it is because we found, like you said, when we were drinking energy drinks, or even sometimes when I reach for coffee, you get that caffeine rush and that hit, and you get kind of jittery and anxious and hot and flushed, and then you end up with that inevitable crash. And always wondered why that is, and started doing some more research into caffeine from tea. And the beautiful thing about tea is it actually contains tannins and amino acids, which combine with the caffeine molecule. And so it gives you more of a steady state, prolonged effect of the caffeine. And so you feel awake and alert and revitalized without that jittery feeling and that crash afterwards. And then you can drink it during the day and still feel like you can get to sleep at night. So I'm so happy that you got a chance to try them and that you experienced that, because that is exactly what we're going for.
Yeah, it was so cool. And when you said that you took manufacturing in-house to do it all yourself so that you could have control, that was like speaking our language because we're kind of at that crossroads right now is do we do manufacturing ourselves? Do we continue to look for manufacturers? Because I'm sure you've experienced it and you hinted at it a little bit. It can be, you're always compromising on something when you're going with someone else. So talk to us about what that decision was like to make that jump. That must have been like nerve-wracking and scary.
Oh, it was absolutely terrifying, and it still kind of feels like a blur that we even did this a few years ago. For us, it was a little bit out of necessity because, we were naive kids when we started this business and we chose this packaging for so many reasons, but, we always wondered why nobody else is using the beverage pouch. I mean, other than a few brands like Capri Sun and some of these baby food brands, you don't really see them on the market. And a big reason for that, as we found out later, is there's not a lot of manufacturing capabilities. And besides from that very small little contract manufacturer that we were using out of Vancouver, there's nobody in Canada that can do it. And there's only a couple of manufacturers in the States that can do it. And they're not still quite set up to do our pouches. And so when it came down to it for us, we were forced with more of an extreme decision of whether do we build our own or do we go out of business? Because that option of even trying to find somebody to do it for us wasn't even there. And so our backs were kind of up against the wall and we didn't have a choice. And sometimes in life, that's maybe the best way to go. When you have zero options, that zero options mentality, your back's up against the wall and you have to make a decision and you're forced to pivot. So I think we were kind of blessed because I'm not sure if we would have made that decision so easily had we had more options on the table. But it's certainly scary because now, you go from running one business, a marketing sales business, now running a sales and marketing business and a manufacturing business. And, there's so much uncertainty in both. And the grass can always seem greener because now we're in it and we have a lot of days when we so badly just wish we had a co-packer and somebody to deal with the mechanical breakdowns and the supply chain issues and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, when it comes to the uncertainty of pricing and the supply chain and all that stuff and feeling like we have control and also have control over our innovation as well. I mean, you guys can understand too, when you're doing testing, you want to launch a new product. We can do that here pretty quickly. I mean, we just formulated a new flavor off the fly last week and did a production run a day later. And, we're able to make samples to give out to our customers. Whereas if you're working with a contract manufacturer, there's a lot more time. Don't have to explain it to you, but, there's a lot of pros and cons of both. It certainly was not an easy decision, but it was one of those things where we just had to jump off the deep end and figure it out. And it's amazing how things can come together and how you can just figure it out when you just decide to start.
Yeah, it's amazing listening to this because it's two totally different industries. Yeah, it's consumer goods, like it's kind of similar, but we're in, skin and personal services and you're in beverage, which hearing you say all of the things, the trials and tribulations, and then the wins and losses that you go through, we go through exactly the same thing. You're talking about your warehouse being in your house. Luba's house in the States, we used to joke around, it's her warehouse house. So it's funny to, hear. And then before we top down, you were talking about trade shows. Now I hear how similar just the day-to-day operations can be, and we run into the same things. I'm wondering now with trade shows, tell us about those.
Yeah, I mean, you guys understand how crazy and chaotic they can be, and 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 it's you go to a trade show and it's a 2-day thing, but you're at the trade show all day, and then you're socializing at night, and the setup and the takedown. There's a lot that goes into it, and they can be exhausting and draining and exhilarating all at the same time. But for us, we're quite selective with the ones that we do. We focus on doing a couple of a year, which, as we were talking about before we hopped on the CHFA, the Natural Health Foods Show, for us has always been 10 out of 10, like the best one. And by far, they're always worth it. They're always hard to do, and it's a big time and financial investment, but the rewards that you get from doing those shows and from the exposure that you get is incredible. And a lot of, smaller brands always kind of ask me like, oh, will you make your money back? Will you make the sales to justify it? And I don't look at it that way. I look at the trade shows as an investment and in planting seeds. And I really have seen now that we've done the CHFA show every year for 3 years now, there is seeds that we've planted in the first show 3 years ago that are really starting to bear fruit. You meet a buyer the first year, they see you again the next year, they come see you again the next year. You can shake their hands, you can get them to sample your products, see your new innovation, see how your team is growing and your branding has changed. And they see that you're willing to put in the work, and they see that you show up and that you're sticking around and you're not going anywhere. It's really a couple years in when I feel like you're really going to get those opportunities. And so the trade shows are amazing. The number one that we're hoping to do next year is Expo West. I don't know if you guys ever
Yes,
do that
I
one?
hear we have not yet, but I've looked into quite a bit of it because there's a east and a west, but the west one is supposed to be enormous, and it's all natural products. So everybody there is very like-minded, but it's the spectrum of items and that are brought to this show. I mean, it's anything from like cleaning to beverage to like you name it, it's there.
It's amazing. I think they have the show in like 4 different buildings, and it takes you like 3 or 4 days just to walk the whole show. It
Yeah,
sounds
it's huge.
incredible.
It
Yeah.
does, yeah. Okay, so one more question I wanted to ask about what you were talking about earlier. So we talked about just the day to day. Yes, it's so similar. The trade show, you said a couple keywords. You're like exhausting, shut up, and takeout. I'm like, girl, I know. Some of our past podcasts, Becca and I and Lubar are just like, oh, you're exhausted. But if you want to work hard, it's a great time. But boy, is there a lot of work behind it. And it's funny because it's like running jokes. But okay, so you were talking about just how, we're showing up year to year, meeting these different buyers. So prior to going into mass, like who was your customer? Then when you did break into mass, what is like the big differences you noticed in like the day-to-day operations? And I don't know if I'm articulating this the way I'm thinking it in my brain. Like, what is, when you were just selling straight to the customers, who and where did you sample? You said farmers markets. And then now that you're in mass, you have these buyers that you go through, but do you still go to direct consumer as well?
We sure do. And you know what? Retail has been a huge part of our business since day one. That was kind of always our strategy, was let's just get into retail doors and let's get into as many stores as possible, which I think a lot of brands try and, do that at the beginning. And it's amazing to say your product is in all these stores. But a big learning lesson that we had is just because you get into the stores doesn't mean anything. It's actually the easy part to get in. It's getting your product moving and making sure those retailers are supportive. And so, the retail part has been amazing, but we actually find ourselves, as we continue along in our business, moving our business more direct to consumer. So, I mean, I discovered you guys on TikTok, which is so cool. And, the last couple of years, we've invested a lot more into our social media and to our direct to consumer business, which you guys do such a good job at. And we really realized the value in that. It took us 5 years to actually figure out how to run Facebook and Instagram ads properly. And that's something that we have just started doing since January. And since we've kind of started to figure it out, we've, 3x our online sales. And we've really realized that while retail is amazing, and we will continue to make that a huge focus of our business and make sure our retailers are supported, if you develop a very strong direct to consumer business as well, and it will trickle into the retail, because if you have strong marketing and you have a strong presence online and consumers are buying your product online and they're sharing it, they're also going in the stores to look for it. So it's kind of a win-win. And so this year our focus has been on marketing and pulling our business more online. Don't have to explain it to you guys either, but the margins are better, the control is better, you have a better control over your customer's experience, and you can build a relationship with them better through email marketing and things like that, as opposed to a customer just walking in blindly to a store and picking your product off the shelf. If they're purchasing online, you can have the opportunity to develop a relationship with them. And so that's why this year we've really been moving our business more to online sales and Amazon as opposed to just retail. So I hope that answers your question, but that's, our big focus for this year, and, kind of following in the footsteps of like what you guys have done, and just with your social media, it's so amazing. And I think that's so important and something that we're, really working on for this year.
Yeah, that's how we met. I would have never probably even, like, I've seen your drinks before, but I don't know if I would have purchased them because I'm not a huge energy drink consumer anyways. But after we built the relationship in the DMs, I was like, I'm gonna buy one of every flavor. And they were great. They're so different from energy drinks because my whole thing was, and these ladies know, is that when I have caffeine, I can go a little bit crazy. So I'm selective with when I use it. Like during trade shows, I need caffeine. But day to day, I don't drink it very often because of the crash, and then I can't sleep at night. So I was really impressed with your teas because of that. But one question I have, and we kind of ponder it as well in our business with mass retailers and direct to consumer and even Amazon, is how do you find building the relationship between each like supplier? Like, say Whole Foods, do they get upset now that you're selling on Amazon, and how do you navigate that? That's always like one of my concerns, is like, don't get mad at me.
Yeah,
I also
that's
think that that's like PTSD because I used to need a buyer. So I have like all these stories where I was like, I need an exclusive. You can't sell to anyone else because it's like this was the legal, the talk in the industry, and like the demand and how much product are you going to give me for free to do an end cap. And so I'm like, that's now still no
Late.
right.
That is such a good question. And first of all, it's hard to always please everybody all the time. So I will preface, like, we've had pushback, and it's hard. It's so hard to like keep your retailers happy, keep your customers happy when we're all just trying to do our best. But one thing that, we always tell buyers if they see us running ads, or they see us online, is we always say that if retail sales are going to go up, then our online sales are going to go up, and vice versa, because marketing is marketing. And if a customer sees our product online, we have a ton of customers that they would way rather buy it in a store. And they're, if they see our ads continually, or they see our Amazon ads continually, or they see their friends buying it on Amazon, there's a lot of people that don't want to commit to like a higher value product either. I mean, we sell a case for $50. So, as someone seeing our ads for the first time, they probably don't always want to commit to that, but they're way more likely to walk in Whole Foods, and we're supporting the retailers with promos and end caps and things all the time. They're seeing our ads. They might not want to buy a $50 case, but they'll walk into Whole Foods and they saw our ad, they're reminded of us, and they buy it off the shelf. And so that's something that we always try and relay to our retailers, because we get that question too, like, you guys are running promos on your website, you're on Amazon, you're working with this online retailer, and yada yada yada. It's like, well, all that marketing is going to help drive consumer awareness and attention to their store shelves too. And the more people that know about our product, regardless of what channel it is, it's going to be better for everybody involved. So that's usually kind of how we swing it. And it's true. And the retailers love that, because the more we run ads, the better their sales are too.
That's
I
true.
love that.
Yeah, that's a good mindset. And now that you say that, just thinking of myself, I found you online. I went into a store to purchase, and out of the whole aisle, yours was the only one that had like shelf talkers and merchandising as a part of its display. I was like, wow, I mean, because I emailed you right away. I was like, damn, Carly. But you had so much more education behind the product, where if I was a blind consumer, I knew right away why your product was different than the energy drink in the aluminum can right next to it. And I was like, so you must have supplied that for that retailer. And yeah, that makes so much sense. I love that mindset that you have.
Totally. Have you guys ever experimented with that, with like the shelf talkers or cardboard displays or anything like that in retail?
We've been talking about it. Yeah, we've been talking about it.
Yeah, this year is going to be the year of experimenting. We tried a lot of things in the past in terms of marketing, and it's just throwing spaghetti at the wall. So now this year we want to look at shelf talkers and displays and getting into
Cardboard cutouts,
retailers.
like
Yeah.
behind
Yeah,
you.
mascots.
Yeah.
100%. You guys need one of these.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I've got a filter now. I'm good. But I do want to like give a shout out to the Rviita. I don't know who it was, Becca, where you went, but like I just huge kudos to them that they actually use them. So that tells me that your relationship with that vendor, Carly, is very good and the communication is really good because like I used to be at the store. Like you just don't do stuff. So like you obviously have like bridged that gap in the relationship with that vendor and you that these are the talkers. This is where they have to go. This is why it's important. That's huge. Like that to me is like a huge takeaway from this.
Well, thank you, Rviita. I really appreciate that. And you know what? We always say, like, we're in the tea business, but we're really in the people business because it's all about relationships and not just your customers, but with the stores, with the staff in the stores, with your brokers, with your distributors, and just constantly making sure that you are investing in those relationships. And that's one thing with our retailers. Like, we spend a lot of time, especially in the early days, like boots on the ground, visiting the stores, saying hi to the managers, bringing them samples, educating them on the product. And the thing is a lot of founders aren't doing that. And so most of the time when I walk into a store to go ask for the manager, they're shocked to meet me because there's not a lot of brands that are going around and doing that because everyone wants to do everything online and email and stuff like that. And if you can set yourself apart by just picking up the phone or going to visit people in person nowadays, like it will really set you apart, especially in retail. And that's something that we've done and it's just worked so well. And so now when we ask to put shelf talkers up or put up a display or an end cap or something like that, like they're so happy to support us because we've invested in the relationship. So yeah, just like you said.
Yeah, brilliant. Now, speaking of being in the people business, tell the listeners a little bit about your charity tea and all the fun things with the packaging that you do and how it matches with like the name of the tea. I thought that was so unique and something that you don't see a lot.
Aw, well, thank you. Charity Rviita sold 2 plastic bottles will get pulled out of the ocean. So we're super proud to have an amazing charity initiative for our flavor. But we do have, fun things and little hidden messages on all of our teas. We actually have a little hidden message on the bottom of every single one, which a lot of people don't know. And every single flavor the name has a special meaning behind it. So Midnight, the one that I have here, this is my personal favorite. We actually named this one Midnight because when I was working as a nurse, I would always crush an energy drink right at midnight on my shift to keep me going. And so when we launched Rviita, we wanted to make a tribute to all the amazing nurses and healthcare workers that work so hard. So that's why we named this one Midnight, but all of our flavor names kind of have a similar story and it's really special to us. So I appreciate you bringing that up. We're super proud of it.
Yeah, no problem. And before we wrap up, what do you want listeners to know? I know you have a new flavor that just came out. Where do you want them to go? What is the key thing everyone needs to know about Rviita?
Thank you so much, Becca. Well, you can find us everywhere on social media, just at Rviita or Revitalize. We're on TikTok, Instagram, Amazon. You can find us in most major grocery stores. We just launched our brand new Sunrise Mango flavor. I'm going to send you guys some cases to your office to try. It's been so popular. Everybody's loving it. We're also working on an apple pear green tea flavor that's going to launch in the fall. So that's been in, formulation. We're really excited about that. But, just so grateful for anybody that's interested in learning more and who gives our product a try. It means so much to us.
Well, I just placed my order, so I'm very excited.
Did you? No
I did.
way.
Yeah,
Oh, that's so nice. I appreciate it. You guys are amazing.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
gonna have to
and
get it here in the States.
Your website is stunning. Very well done.
Thank you so much. Well, I really appreciate you ordering. I'll make sure to send you guys a bunch of extra boxes too. Appreciate that a lot.
Thank you.
Aw.
So listen up, all you beauty people that are at the trade shows. This is what you need in your bag, and it's not a big, heavy aluminum can. This is just going to fit right into your bag that you're carrying around at the trade show anyway. That's just going to keep you going. This is brilliant. Congrats on all your success, and thank you so much for your time today. We're going to link everything, or Becca will link everything below, so you guys can just click and purchase. If you're in the States, don't know what we're going to do for you yet, but we'll Parting will keep us abreast of how that's going. But for our Canadian listeners, you'll be able to see and purchase.
Well, thank you so much, Lupa, Becca, Aaron. It's so nice to meet you all and sure appreciate the chance to speak with you all today.
Yeah, and I'll see you at CHSA next year.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun.